forward a little in time. We've seen what's happened in Russia. You just made a tour of Europe, talking with many of your competitors and former colleagues. What do you think is really happening in the big trading houses right now, and what are the pain points?
I'd like to say easy answer. It's not easy, but I'll try the easy approach. That I say, well, like we've been there before. In 2007-8, we were at $145 a barrel. So I can flash back to where we were then and give you a window into what was happening. And I know when we were approaching $140 a barrel back then, every single trade you did had to be justified. There's a limited balance sheet, limited credit lines. So everything slowed down. It was like slow motion almost. Where you're used to buying and selling fairly aggressively, it would be like, okay, leave, you do a fraction of what you might otherwise do. And you would let opportunities go by because you had to focus on the ones with the biggest, the most certain and largest profit. And so I think that's what's happening everywhere, number one. And that's very logical. In a highly volatile environment, you want to protect your balance sheet and leverage it. The worst thing you can possibly do is something close to a break-even trade. But in a boring sideways market, you might engage in price discovery and do something that's fairly break-even, just because it might open up new opportunities. Well, now it's the opposite environment. You don't do anything unless it's guaranteed. That's the first thing. I think the other echo I heard, and this seems very logical, is that a thousand times a day across the world, I might say, hey, Kuppy, I've got this cargo heading to Puerto Rico. This is what it looks like. What do you think? What do you think it's worth? And you might say, look, I've already got something. This is what I think it's worth, and this is who might take it. And that's just the friendly banter that goes on. Or you shouldn't be sending it to Puerto Rico because we're already long. You shouldn't be sending it here or there. And this is the glue that holds the world, the world markets together. It's this informal communication. Nobody's sitting there in a silo, really, or good traders aren't sitting in a silo guessing what things are worth. You're constantly on the phone all day long with your competitors. That ultimately, you look after them, they look after you, and some days they'll have something you might need, and you say, hey, I can take some of that, and here's my price. So there's this constant iterations of determining value that are going on, and I think that's seizing up right now. And it's seizing up because if I said I'm heading to Puerto Rico with a cargo, you would say I have zero interest, and if I did, it would be at an insanely low price. And I'd say, well, okay, thank you very much. And so that causes things to slow down. So I think that's what's happening. Maybe not everywhere. That's happening on the edges. But I think as it happens on the edges, determining what is anything worth becomes, and then you see that really in natural gas. You saw it recently in heating oil, where you see these just giant moves. Well, what is anything really worth when a physical cargo, when the underlying derivative markets are moving that much? I think, so I think to me, those giant moves are like the wheels falling off the truck. And I think, and I'll just get slightly political for a second. I think when we had the oil for food program with Iraq, we allowed oil to move, but we kept a penalty differential on it. And I think that's what we should be doing right now. There's a very easy way to solve the global problems. Put a tax of some sort on Russian oil, but say that we're not going to sanction it, for example. And what you have right now you have got voluntary abstention stepping into the void of regulatory clarity, and I think it's a huge mistake. So I look at that mistake. I say, okay, we're fucking things up. It's going to get worse until they get religion about. And I think right now it's easier to blame Putin and blame the U.S. oil companies than it is to have more forward-looking regulatory environment. And so they're taking the easy approach. We're not taking any, and let's just blame Putin.